Good morning, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernie or Bust Show. Fueled by coffee, organic cranberry trail mix, and cranberry walnut trail mix, at least today. Today, let's talk about some truth. On my Medium page, if you go there, you'll see some articles. I have a featured article on Medium. Resist Corporate Democrats. I have the latest article I'm going to talk about today. Why leverage conversations with diehard Democrats are necessary but painful. I've also plugged this one once, I think. Authoritarianism versus libertarianism. It's really about freedom. I have likened progressives and neoliberals, the differences between them, to pretend discussion of bonobos versus chimps. I wasn't really talking about bonobos or chimps, as you'll see if you click that one. Define bigotry. This is perhaps a raw nerve if you read this one to certain people. Perhaps we'll hit some raw nerves, because I've pointed out that diehard Democrats can be just as bigoted in different ways as more overt bigots that we like to criticize. Love me, I'm a liberal. Attacking liberals from the left is fun, and this article is about doing so in the same way that Phil Oakes did it in the song by this name, Love Me, I'm a Liberal. And metamodernism, that's an interesting idea. Supposedly it's a win-win kind of an idea, but if you consider the idea that progressivism has been hijacked more and more by big money, I used to embrace the idea of metamodernism, and now I'm kind of suspicious. But you can check those out. Let's go back up to why leverage conversations with diehard Democrats are necessary but painful. Three-minute read. Only privileged assholes vote for Biden. Make them stop! BernieOrBust2020.us is the answer. Take the pledge now. You can see already I'm in cage rattling mode. Frogs, don't let frogs vote for Biden, Warren, or other neoliberal sock puppets. Tom Perez here. Even though it has become clear to many ardent revolutionaries on both sides of the political aisle that third-way types like John Cowan, who's their president, or David Brock, who's their paid hitman, and the DNC superdelegates and other party insiders, they don't mind losing, quote, losing to Donald Trump. Diehard Democrats, on the other hand, would do almost anything not to let anyone from outside the Democratic Party win the White House. Some of those other articles I mentioned a second ago talk about tribalism, how tribalistic diehard Democrats tend to be. Probably even more so than diehard Republicans, if that's possible. Because it's a horse race. That's what tribalism looks like when you're voting or rooting for sports teams even. It's a horse race for them. And their elitism is why they hate Bernie. It's a strong statement, but some of the people I've bumped into lately actually hate Bernie. And that's the reason they keep reminding us that he is not actually a Democrat. Many of them absolutely loathe his populism. Their class-based sense of entitlement runs very deep. Because of that, it will take dynamics. It will take the dynamite of Bernie or else to drag them kicking and screaming to vote for him in the primaries. That's the vote blue no matter who part. If they're really going to put their vote where their mouth is, then if Bernie does unrig the primaries enough to get the nomination, they're going to have to vote for him. But they currently insist they will come around later rather than sooner, only after doing their damnedest to get another anointed corporatist the Democratic nomination. They falsely believe that such a candidate will best protect their privilege. That's why they mirror the third way sentiment that anyone but Bernie, hashtag anyone but Bernie, should win the Democratic nomination, and why they say they will vote for, quote, quoting John Cowan here, an existential threat to the future of the Democratic Party for the next generation, unquote. Such as Bernie Sanders, who is the one being referred to as the existential threat. They'll vote for him only if he first manages to win the Democratic nomination in spite of their best efforts to defeat him. I know better. I know that they can be persuaded to come around sooner for the individual primaries and caucuses rather than later, and here's how I know. Even though they hate to admit it, they already have done the math and realize that there are way too many hardcore anti-plutocrats who will not blink first. Am I blinking? Hope I'm not scaring you. But I won't blink first. And many, many hardcore burners will not blink first. Even though corporatist, elitist Democrats will flat out deny it, they are too savvy not to realize the likelihood, practically guaranteed even at this point in the election cycle, that Sanders supporters again will refuse to unite behind a revolting neoliberal corporate crony candidate. Political neophytes are a different story. They don't understand how the electoral college works. They don't understand the key role of swing states. But the savvy armchair political quarterbacks know better. They likely have heard that 12% of Sanders voters in swing states voted directly for Trump in 2016, and that current polls by Emerson, if you click that link, show the likelihood that at least 20% of Sanders voters would do so again if faced with a corporate-sponsored candidate in the general election. Not Buttigieg, not Elizabeth Warren, not Biden or Kamala or any of your other corporate sock puppets, stealthy or otherwise. Even though it is painful to the segment of multi-generational Democrats who have never suffered the degradation of systemic bias, here's why they must be confronted repeatedly with the facts. In my Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook conversations, those who have had it spelled out for them now understand the inevitable. They just hate the message and the messenger with a passion. But their tribalism, classism, elitism will bring them around in the end as long as we revolutionaries are effectively able to demonstrate that unless they blink first, 4 more years of Donald Trump is a foregone conclusion. We revolutionaries who know that privilege is the only reason for them to wave Donald Trump in our faces and attempt again to get us to follow them down an incrementalist path that leads only to more of the same status quo bullshit that has been relentlessly squeezing regular working class Americans for the last 50 years or more. They absolutely will not be able to shove a neoliberal, cloaked or not, down our throats. And if they truly wish not to lose to Donald Trump, they had better figure this out well in advance of next February when the primary process begins. I'll drink to that. As always, unshaved, unbathed, unedited, and unscripted.